Many real estate problems don't start with a bad tenant, a tax bill, or a market shift. They start with a sentence people say all the time. We don't really have a problem. Hi, I'm Randy Ihara, and welcome to the Advisor Podcast. We are real estate wealth advisors here in Hawaii, and our mission is simple: to help families create thoughtful plans to build, protect, and pass on wealth through real estate. To help us unpack these challenges, we're joined by Dan and Julie Ihara. For more than 2 decades, they serve families through complex real estate decisions and have seen the same issues surface again and again: confusion, delay, and stress that quietly builds over time. Those experiences led them to write their new book, Property Decisions, a guide to help real estate owners create clarity, protect family harmony, and make decisions before urgency forces them. Welcome back, Dan and Julie, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for having
much.
us.
Thanks for joining. You know, in chapter 3 of the book, you mentioned 6 core problems that create the most stress and confusion for real estate owners. You've even said the most dangerous starting point is that when someone genuinely believes that there's no problem. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first core problem is that I don't have a problem, or they think I don't have a problem. And really it comes down to denial. So they're thinking, maybe it's if I don't think about it, then it's not there. Or if I don't admit that I have a problem, I don't have a problem. So the denial really comes in 3 different areas. And Dan, what are the different areas?
You know, it typically starts with their home, right? Their home is, the denial about their home is, hey, I'm going to be in my same health situation for a while. And oh, by the way, I'm going to die in my house and you're going to have to pull me out, right? And what the fact of the matter is 70% of people say they want to die in their home, but only 31% actually do. So there's a gap there in what people say and what actually really happens. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Somebody typically gets sick at some level, and then they have to go to a care home, and they don't die in their home. Right? That's the first thing. Then there's this thing about their other properties, their investment properties. So you have a number of categories of people like that, right? There's one that they have enough money, they're affluent enough, and so because they have so much money, they don't really need to make more money. So then they have an asset that's underperforming. It's not performing at its peak performance as they measure other assets because they hold on to it for what they call appreciation. But what they're lacking is the knowledge and understanding that it's an asset that should be generating income for them. And it's something they're just leaving on the table and their family's not getting the benefit of it.
And then the third area is estate planning. They don't admit, or they don't see or recognize that they're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And the kids will have a problem after they leave.
Yeah. And the challenge is that most people, smart folks, if you have a piece of real estate, you're going to want to put it in the trust. And many of you do. But what I'd like you to do is go and read your trust and take a look at it and see what it says. The problem with most trust says is that upon my demise, my 3 kids share it. Well, that's why 70% of families fight. Because real estate's the only non-divisible asset you own. And so having conversations about what could we do before that happens, or maybe what provisions should we put in the trust such that we can mitigate future problems, because the problems aren't going to be with you. Remember, you're going to be dead. It's for your kids. It's for your loved ones. And those are the ones that we really want to protect. And, you know, at the end of the day, I ask our clients, you know, when you're gone, would you like your kids to love each other? Well, everybody says yes. Unfortunately, though, they haven't created a plan such that that will happen. And the fact of the matter states that 70% of families are having fights after their parents pass away.
Yeah, and that's such a big point because, a lot of people don't see the problem, or maybe they don't want to admit that they have a problem. Right? They may know that they have a problem, but if I don't acknowledge it, if I don't see it, if I don't speak it into the world, then it's not going to affect me.
Right.
And a lot of times people do that, but they don't realize the impact that it has on their kids and their loved ones. And that if I don't solve this problem now, the problem's going to end up going to my kids. My kids are going to have this problem.
Yeah.
And so the question we always ask is like, if you don't solve it now, it's either now or later.
Right.
So what do you want to do about it?
Right. The other thing with people's home, I think we see that quite a bit, is that people make the assumption that they're going to remain in the same health that they are now all the way till the end. So they're like, I don't see a problem with that. I'm going to just stay in my home until I pass, and then that'll be it. but they don't really understand that as over time, our bodies decline and we're going to need some additional help. So
Yeah, I think everyone can agree that we're all in some level of denial, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm 62 years old, but I feel like I'm 18. I'm in denial. I'm not 18 anymore. Well, we all get to that point.
Right.
And it's human nature. Right. And the older you get, the more of a denial you become around your health, around decisions. And just keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, no decision is a decision. Yes. So you're making a decision not to be proactive. Right. And our encouragement to you today is to make a decision to create a plan such that your kids will love each other when you're gone.
And let's say people out there, they realize that they do have a problem. Sometimes the next thing that they run into isn't clarity, it's confusion.
Yeah.
So when people finally admit that they may need to do something, why does that decision often feel harder instead of easier?
Yeah, I guess there are so many decisions that have to be made, and people get overwhelmed. And so the second core problem that we see is people are paralyzed by the options that they have, or they don't know what options are available to them, and therefore they ask a lot of questions, to themselves, and they don't know what the answers are, and they get paralyzed, and they just get stuck, and they say, "Well, I'm just not going to do anything. I'll just wait."
Yeah, change is hard for every human around. Change is really hard. The older you get, the harder change becomes, and the heavier that weight becomes. And the challenge is they just don't know what to do.
Right.
They don't know where to go. They don't know how to make that change happen. They don't know who they can help them. So they get paralyzed by the options of not knowing the options, right? They get stuck. Many people just get stuck, not having a plan, not having options. And that's why many folks have called us to help them unpack that, to help them understand what their senior living options are so that we can, at least give them a choice in the matter. And wouldn't it be great if you could make a choice now and a decision now while you're of sound mind and body versus somebody else making the decision for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely the biggest thing is people don't know their options, right?
Right.
When people come to us and they say, "Hey, I have a problem, I don't know what to do," and we go over their options for them,
right,
a lot of times the response is, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that was possible."
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
Right.
Right. And so that's part of the reason why you guys wrote the book, is to explain what are those options for people? What are the solutions out there that these people can rely on and lean on?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Another thing too is, people don't know who to ask.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They ask their CPA. The CPA says, "Don't sell. You're going to pay the taxes." They ask their, financial planner. They'll say, "Hey, you can sell. Give me the money. I'll reinvest it. I'll make you more money." Right. The trust attorney says, "Hey, I'll put it in the trust." But there's no one profession or a person that kind of puts it all together. Right. So they're getting all these, options and solutions from different professionals, but there's not one person that brings it all together and says, "Hey, here's all the different options. Here's the pros and cons of each of those options. What do you think you should do?"
Right. Exactly. And that's what we do.
Well, what we've actually done is figured out the right questions to ask.
Right.
See, we're not going to tell anybody what to do. We're going to ask you what you want to do. And given the options, if you had a choice, which one would it be? And so what we truly believe is if you come from curiosity over judgment, then you're going to find the options yourself. You're going to figure it out. You're going to self-discover your best journey in life.
And what I also see, one of the challenges is when people are in this situation, they ask so many questions all in a row. Okay, where do I go? How much is it going to cost? What about my taxes? What about this? And it turns into a big ball of problems, and they don't know how to unpack it. So when what I see is the process of asking the questions, separating them and simplifying them and addressing one at a time. So it's sort of a framework on how to approach the problem.
Yeah.
The next thing that you guys talk about and that we see all the time is people come in and say, "I feel so weighed down. I feel so heavy by the burden, the cognitive burden of my properties."
Right.
What does that look like? And what does that mean in a day-to-day life?
Yeah, that is a big thing. So that's the third core problem. It's cognitive frustration or a cognitive burden, where it could be your home. Maybe there's deferred maintenance. There's a lot of things to take care of. Your health is declining, not sure where to go. And also on the investment properties as well. Tired of the terrible T's, the toilets, the trash, the tenants. Taxes, right.
Yeah, the cognitive burden comes up in two different generations, believe it or not. It comes up with the older adult thinking, where will I go? How's life going to be? What if I need care? Who's going to help me? And then it goes to the next generation, the adult children. Like, what are we going to do with mom? How do we help her? Who's going to take off from work? How do we feed her? How do we make sure she gets care? And so it's 2 generations of cognitive burden that we see families go through on a normal basis just on their home.
Right. So it's really the worry, and it's really being worried about who is going to take care of me, and am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
And the other one is the children.
Yeah.
Right. Are my kids going to be able to handle the properties? Are they going to know what to do?
Yeah. When it comes to their investment properties, they're thinking, oh no, little Johnny and little Jane, they're going to fight when I'm gone, right? And they don't want that happening. What do I do? And they haven't figured out the solution until they come to us. We share that with them. They're concerned about increasing costs and taxes and insurance. Like, oh gosh, this is just a burden. You know, especially when you get older, you got more time. And when you got more time, you think about things. And we have a saying, what you focus on expands. And when you start focusing on these challenges, it becomes overwhelming. It's stressful.
Right.
And then the emotional and cognitive burden becomes physical. It goes into our bodies. And that's the worst thing to happen. We want to catch it before it gets there.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of cognitive burden that people have, you know, about where do they go, right? The older adult, or, you know, I got to cut the mango tree. I got to cut the grass.
Yeah.
And some of these 80, 90-year-old people are climbing their tree and cutting it, right? That's so scary to see. That's not something that they need to do.
Right, exactly.
Or they're worried about, hey, you know, I have these investment properties. I'm worried that my kids don't know how to manage it, right? They don't know how to take care of it. They've never done that.
Right.
So there's all this burden of worry that they have for themselves and their kids.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, eventually that weight starts to show up physically, right? Like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so at what point does a property stop being an asset and starts being a liability?
When you start to worry about it too much, number one. That's where it really starts, is the concern about it. That's your first sign. If you're worried about your properties, that's the time to have a conversation.
Right. And when the asset no longer looks like an asset or performs like an asset, which it should be generating income for you, it should be providing
the benefit that you're looking for in your asset.
Yeah, we see that all the time, right? When, you know, a property is vacant even, right? Investment property is vacant and they're paying the property taxes. They may be even paying insurance, even though they're not allowed, they can't get insurance.
Right.
They're having all these expenses and they have no benefit.
Right.
And that's been vacant for 10, 20, 30 years and they're losing hundreds, thousands of dollars every year. You know,
worried about the neighbors. I like my neighbors, but my neighbors don't like me now because I put a tenant in and it makes a lot of noise and he's got all this trouble and all the trash. I don't know what to do, and I feel bad for my neighbors. So that cognitive burden is really the care for another person. They either care for themselves, care for their children, care for their loved ones, care for their neighbors, and something has gotten away, right? That they're having to worry.
And then it turns into the physical burden.
Yes.
And even physically on your body, you know, tired and you just feel not good about it anymore. Exhausted.
Yeah. Or people are worried about deferred maintenance, right? The roof is leaking. I don't know what to do, right? The paint is peeling, all these different things. The toilets are leaking.
And many of these properties, they're older, right? Because our clients are older.
Right.
So you're talking about a 1950s, 1960s home that hasn't had any repair on it. And they're just concerned. Liability, safety, neighbors, and then cash flow.
Wait, 1960s, that's not old.
Good point. There was a good year in 1963, I think there was.
Yeah. And some people do realize that they do have a problem. And, you know, when someone starts to realize that they have a problem, there's usually another wall that they hit.
Yeah.
You mentioned the financial fears that people have.
Right.
So what are some of those financial fears that stop people from acting, even when they know that they should?
Yeah, so the financial fear, that is the core problem number 5, and it is very common. And the questions people have or they ask themselves, it's primarily, am I going to run out of money? The fear of I'm going to run out of money. And then they get paralyzed and they kind of stop. They don't know how to answer the question. They don't know enough about, you know, the taxes or how much their care is going to cost, or and so that kind of freezes them, and that's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not them, not only them, it's their kids, right?
Right.
How's mom
exactly.
going to pay for care?
That's
Oh,
right.
shoot, do I need to get a loan to pay for mom's
Right.
care? I can't leave my job and take care of mom because then I don't have income. And it just creates a lot of burden. Yeah. Because they didn't get in front of it. That's the reactive person, the person that wakes up one day and there's a problem and they're reacting to the problem. Our suggestion is you get in front of it. Our suggestion is you have a conversation to create a plan that's going to suit you and your family, to remove the burden between you and your family and the properties you have.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen, people come into our office and say, they're 70, 80, they're still working and think they're
Right.
going to run out of money. You look at their properties, they have $6 million in real estate. They have no debt, no
debt,
mortgage at all. And they're like, I need to keep working because I'm not going to have enough money.
Yeah.
Right.
And we actually walk them through, okay, worst case scenario, if you do need care, $10,000, $20,000 a month, we do the math for them and say, hey, worst case scenario, you need X amount of money, right? We maybe add in a little bit more buffer
Right.
just so they feel comfortable.
Right.
And then they can realize that maybe I don't have a financial burden.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And a lot of times the wealth is locked up in the properties, and they're thinking they're they bought it at 25,000, and they're thinking, well, maybe it's I don't know, a few $100,000, and they don't realize what the value is of the
$1.5
property.
million.
Yeah,
They got
right.
6 of those.
Right.
But yet they're cutting coupons and napkins because they don't have cash.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's what we do. We help them unlock that cash. We want to reposition the wealth, have it generate income so that they can live the life they desire.
right.
One of the big things that I'm proud that we do is we ask people to think big. I mean, think of the most amazing life you have. And one of the reasons is we all know that we have a number of finite days on the planet, right? One of the other questions I'd like to ask is, how many good summers do you think you got left? And that's an important question because it makes you go internal to, I better do the best I can with what I have during the time I have. Because this is all the time I have.
Right.
It's a finite number of days on the planet. So we don't want people to go to the end of life and have regrets, right? That's the worst thing. I want people to say, I lived my best life. I did everything I could and it's my time. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not intentional about the life that they want to live.
Yeah.
And we can help show them, hey, here's some options for you because we want you to live the best life you want.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And be intentional about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. And all these problems, they actually lead to one that usually only becomes obvious when it's too late. In the
Right.
book, you actually mentioned people face an urgency gap.
Right.
But what is an urgency gap?
Yeah. So urgency gap, that's a scary one. That's the core problem number 6. So the urgency gap, it's sort of like one of those, it's not urgent until it is, meaning something will happen, either a medical emergency or some kind of other problem. And the investment property starts leaking, the roof is leaking, or some emergency happens, and then it's an emergency to deal with the problems.
Yeah. It's like we say there's really no rush until it's a rush.
Right.
And unfortunately, then again, you're reacting again. You're not
Yes.
being proactive. And oftentimes it's really adds a lot of pressure, right? Undue pressure to family members. The undue pressure oftentimes impacts the people you love the most,
Right.
right? An accident, a fall in a home, and somebody can't stay home any longer, right? So now the people that you love the most are the ones that are going to take care of you in those situations. Now they're in a reactive mode. They have to stop their life to plan for your life. Whereas opposed to that, if you got in front of it and you were proactive and you said, well, I know I want to age in place but I want to live healthy environment. And those who move to things like retirement communities where there's a safe environment, something happens, you fall, there's care, there's food. If one of the spouses passes on, there's a support system versus being home alone. And then it turns into urgent concerns. So many people have told us, oh, don't worry about me, I'm okay, until they're not.
Right. Exactly.
And we've told those stories about getting the phone call for the guy that's in a hospital bed. And those are the worst conversations to have. And unfortunately, we have a lot of them.
Right. And then on the other side, we have the investment properties that also, things happen. And a lot of times it's not urgent, maybe because the families who own it, they don't really need the income from it. So again, we're talking about the vacant property, or maybe they've had a tenant in there for 30 years and it's way under market. And then something happens and one of the siblings may need the money for care, or they need it for some kind of emergency. And then maybe there's multiple siblings and one doesn't, but one needs it. And then there we go. There's the fight right there. And off we go.
Yeah, typically one is pitted against the other in an urgent rush to, hey, I need this. I need you to do this. And then the family dispute rises at a really high level because now you've got strong opinions about what should be done with real money that matters.
Right.
And some of those that need it, they're going to be very vocal about it.
So what we try to do to get ahead of it is, really have a conversation about ultimately, what is the ultimate goal? When you're gone, who do you want to get what? How do you want things to look and why? And just kind of get that all out on the table ahead of time so that you don't have these types of challenges.
Yeah. In the ideal world, your property should be a blessing to those you love, not a source of conflict.
Right.
Oftentimes it becomes a source of conflict because they're reacting to a situation. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think that brings us to our biggest question of all is, if all 6 of these problems have one root cause, what would you say it is?
It's communication with meaningful conversations and appropriate questions that help you lead to a plan, a proactive plan. Because there's 2 guarantees in life. One, we're all going to die one day, and the other, that's the day of the transfer of wealth. And if that's clear, then what's your plan? And that's our goal, is to create plans for folks. And when we sit down with families and we help them create plans, it falls into just like the word is spelled, PLAN. Right? We talk about your properties. We talk about the capital gains tax liability in the event you sell it and how do you avoid those. We talk about doing asset performance tests to measure the performance of the assets to make sure they're maximizing its return. And if not, helping you do that in the event you need more money. Then we talk about longevity. Longevity is an interesting concept because think of it as from this moment in time to the end of your demise, what do you want life to look like, right? Not only your life, but physical life, emotional life, spiritual life, financial life, and then the lives of your family, and how does that impact them? And so we unpack that because many people have thoughts and feelings, but they never let it out, right? We bottle these feelings in, and our job is to help you unpack that, and we do that through a series of questions. And then the A is the assets. What other assets do we have? Are we sure that you're going to run out of money, or we think we're good, right? And most people don't even know that answer, right? They come in thinking, oh, I'm going to run out of money. And when we show them, like you said earlier, we don't have a problem. It's very clear they don't have a problem, right? And then the last is the next generation. What do you want it to look like? What's the legacy you want to create? And how do you bless your family today while you're alive versus allowing them to fight when you're gone? So the plan concept is a proven system that we use. And then there's about 50 to 70 questions we ask through the process to make sure that you're clear on what the best plan is.
Right.
And these plans have nothing to do with us. It's 100% to do with you.
Right. And a lot of times it's, helping people to start dreaming again or things that they want to do, right?
Yeah. Many of our older adults, they're byproducts or products of the Depression. So from the mindset space, they come from scarcity. They come from, I don't have enough. Well, then they didn't even realize that they had more than enough. Right. And when they do, when I ask them, there's no way you can run out of money. It's impossible, even if you spend a lot of it. And if you're going to travel first class. Why not? Spend it. You've earned it through these years of your life. Enjoy life. And they struggle with that.
Right.
Some will say, wow,
or take your kids too.
And take your whole family,
yeah,
right? Because you can't take it with you.
Right.
And if you want to bless those and be intentional about blessing them, and there's more than one way to do that. So it really depends on what matters most to you.
I think most of the time it's not just a bad decision, it's no decision.
Exactly. Yeah, like we said earlier, no decision is a decision.
And sometimes that no decision, it's not just a cost financially, but emotionally.
Yeah.
And so if someone's listening who does nothing, who usually ends up carrying the weight of that decision later?
Typically, it's the
Your
people that you
loved
love the
ones.
most.
Yeah, your loved
It's
ones.
it's the person that you love the most that you're putting a burden on. And that's not your intention. But it happens to be that. Because who else cares the most? The people that love you the most.
And if you could leave the audience with one takeaway, what would that be?
Schedule a time to meet with us so we can ask you the right questions so you can create a plan. A plan that's going to suit your family best. A plan that will create a legacy, not a dispute. And a plan that really could bless your family in ways that you could never imagine.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would also say that maybe it's uncomfortable, but maybe be comfortable being uncomfortable, because there's some really difficult questions that people don't like to talk about death. They don't like to talk about maybe what the kids are going to get, but really having the conversation to flush everything out, because once you're gone, nobody's going to really know what you wanted. So now is a time when you're alive to express, okay, this is what I want from my kids. These are the things that, I want and why. And so that they can understand it, and then they'll be able to make better decisions once you are gone.
Kind of run into a lot where the parents pass away, the kids have these properties, then they really don't know. Like, I don't know what mom and dad wanted, but for us, for the properties. And they wish they could go back in time and have a conversation with them.
Right.
But that time is kind of too late, right? So just being intentional about that, and having the conversations that maybe feel uncomfortable up front,
Exactly.
but in the long run, they're going to be so beneficial
That's
for the
right.
kids, for the legacy, for the family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in our book, we actually give you the questions you can ask your own family.
Right.
This is you can do it yourself. If you pick up the book and you read it, you're going to learn the questions you want to ask, and you might be able to do this on your own.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up with a lightning round. So in this segment, we're going to ask a series of questions, and you guys will both either point to yourself or you're going to point to the other person. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready. I don't know. I'm a little scared.
I want to see where she's pointing.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
Who wakes up earlier? Who is more likely to lose their keys? I think you guys both know who you're pointing to. Who would forget where they parked the car? Who would win in a staring contest? Who's the better writer? Who's the better speller? Who's the best cook? Who thinks everyone who owns property should read this book? Awesome. Well, thank you for playing in that lightning round. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome.
We're excited to see the new launch of the book.
Yes, February 23rd.
February 23rd.
Yes.
And you can get it on.
Amazon.
Okay.
Yes. Property decisions. You can type in Dan Ihara and it'll pop up.
Or Julie Ihara.
And they'll both pop up. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
time.
Thank you.
It's truly eye-opening to think about the journey to real estate wealth and how important it is to have the right team and the right mindset. We hope our conversation today sparks some new ideas for you. And if you're looking for more information, go to danihara.com or give us a call. Mahalo for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Mahalo.